Europe is split, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni just dropped a diplomatic wrench into the EU's unified trade machine. As Brussels scrambles to retaliate against Donald Trump's sweeping new tariffs, Meloni is urging restraint, resisting pressure from France and Germany to escalate into a full-blown trade war. Her message: don't fight fire with fire. In a bold statement that's already shaking the EU's internal dynamics, Meloni said, "I am not convinced that the best choice is to respond to tariffs with other tariffs. Italy wants tariffs removed, not multiplied." Let's break down why this matters, what it says about the fault lines in EU politics, and how Meloni's move could shape the future of transatlantic economic relations. Trump's tariff face. The catalyst. First, the backdrop. Trump's newly announced tariffs hit the European Union hard. 20% tariff on EU-manufactured goods, targeted at sectors like automobiles, machinery, agriculture, and pharmaceuticals. Framed by Trump as Liberation Day for U.S. manufacturing, the EU immediately floated countermeasures, with France and Germany leading the charge. A potential retaliatory tariff package targeting U.S. tech, agriculture, and financial services. Use of the anti-coercion instrument, a new EU legal tool designed to push back on economic threats. But then came Meloni, and she wasn't buying it. Meloni's position: de-escalation over escalation. Meloni's position breaks from the hawkish rhetoric in Brussels. She's not convinced tariffs on tariffs solve anything. She views retaliation as economic self-harm, especially for Italy. She wants to focus on negotiation and de-escalation, not escalation and brinkmanship. This puts her in direct tension with leaders like Emmanuel Macron, who favors a hardline response to protect French industry. Olaf Scholz, under pressure from German automakers and manufacturers. Meloni's calculus is rooted in Italian economic interests and political optics at home, and her stance is already fracturing EU unity. Italy's economic angle, a balancing act. Italy's economy depends on export-driven manufacturing, particularly to the U.S. Agricultural exports like wine, olive oil, and cheese. Tourism, services, and finance that benefit from stable transatlantic ties. Retaliating against U.S. tariffs could trigger further U.S. penalties, hurting Italian exports. Disrupt supply chains, especially in dual-sector industries. Jeopardize relations with Washington during a fragile geopolitical moment. Meloni is betting that playing peacemaker could preserve Italy's trade interests and elevate her diplomatic profile. She's framing herself as the adult in the room. EU anti-coercion tool, what it does. The EU's proposed weapon of choice, the anti-coercion instrument, is designed to counter unfair foreign economic pressure, impose retaliatory tariffs, quotas, or restrictions, deter trade bullying from powers like the US or China. On paper, it's a power move, but it requires unanimous backing among EU states, and Meloni's opposition puts its activation at risk. Her veto power gives her leverage, and she's using it. The strategic message to Trump. By blocking EU retaliation, Meloni is sending a message, not just to Brussels, but to Trump. Italy is open to negotiation. Not every EU state is marching in lockstep. A transatlantic rift can be exploited or bridged, depending on U.S. posture. Trump may see Meloni's stance as a sign of fragmentation and opportunity. Divide and conquer is a known Trump tactic. A fractured EU is less threatening to U.S. leverage. Meloni may be banking on securing bilateral concessions for Italy, avoiding the fallout of bloc-wide escalation. Politics behind the posturing. This isn't just economics. It's pure politics. Meloni is positioning herself as a pragmatic nationalist, distancing herself from EU centralism, appealing to Italian voters tired of Brussels-led mandates. She's drawing contrast with Macron's elite diplomacy and Scholz's technocratic caution. To her base, this isn't weakness, it's smart sovereignty. It's also a calculated move to keep trade flowing, prevent supply shocks, avoid populist backlash at home. Europe's deep divide. Meloni's stance reveals deep fractures in EU foreign and economic policy. France and Germany want a unified response, strength in solidarity. Italy, Hungary, and others prefer selective engagement, realpolitik over principle. This splintering could delay or derail EU retaliation efforts, undermine the credibility of new EU tools like the anti-coercion law, encourage other states to break rank. Brussels wants unity. But Meloni just reminded everyone, the EU is still a collection of sovereign states with different interests, agendas, and thresholds for conflict. What happens next? The EU now faces three options. Option 1. Push ahead without Italy. Try to isolate Meloni and pressure her to reverse course. Risk a public intra-EU rift and political embarrassment. Option 2. Compromise on response. Scale back the retaliation package. Focus on diplomacy and WTO filings. Option 3. Go bilateral. Let individual member states pursue their own economic responses. Undermine EU cohesion but avoid deadlock. None of these are ideal, but all are now on the table. The global stakes. This dispute isn't just about wine tariffs or auto quotas. Who sets the rules of global trade? Whether economic coercion becomes the new norm? How middle powers like Italy navigate between blocs? Meloni's defiance could embolden others. Emerging economies may see room to maneuver. Smaller EU states may resist Brussels' diktats. The US may double down on divide and rule tactics. This is economic diplomacy at a fork in the road. Final thought. In the heat of a transatlantic trade crisis, Giorgia Meloni just threw ice on Brussels' battle plan. She's not trying to fight fire with fire. She's trying to keep the kitchen from burning down. Whether it's wisdom or weakness will depend on what comes next. Will the EU forge unity through compromise or collapse into confusion? Will the US view Italy as a soft target or a negotiating partner? One thing is clear, Italy isn't following the script. And that changes everything. What do you think? Is Meloni right to de-escalate? Or is the EU stronger when it strikes back hard? Let's talk below. Like, subscribe. Share this before the next tariff round hits your wallet. Because in global trade, sometimes restraint is the loudest move of all.